He called me mom, only when he needed money. And this time, he needed a lot. It started like most of his calls. Sweet voice, fake concern, shallow compliments. Hey mom, how's your blood pressure these days? Don't forget to take your vitamins. Have you been walking, stretching? And then, always, came the turn. So listen, Molly's not feeling too well. She's been super tired lately, and we think she might be pregnant. I remember the pause, like he expected me to start crying from joy. I didn't. But I did ask, have you gone to the doctor? Taken a test? He laughed it off. You don't need a test for this kind of thing, Mom. She just knows. Right. Of course. Next day, I wired him $30,000. No hesitation. No questions. No conditions. Just like always. I had one rule when I turned 65. No more loans to Jason. Only gifts. Because I knew the truth by then. He never paid anything back. Not the money. Not the love. Not even the time I spent worrying about him. I sat in my kitchen that night, staring at the empty teacup in my hands. The silence felt heavier than usual. I glanced at the clock. 10:30 p.m. Then my phone buzzed. A voicemail, not from Jason. From Molly. I almost didn't listen. But I pressed play. And that was the moment everything I ever believed in cracked. Finally, the old woman sent the money. Her voice, light, dismissive, victorious. Then Jason's voice, chuckling. Took long enough. Jesus, we even had to fake a pregnancy. The recording kept going, but I couldn't. My hand was shaking so badly I dropped the phone. I just sat there, staring at the floor like it would swallow me. My son. The boy I raised alone after his father left. The boy I defended from every bully, every teacher, every mistake, had tricked me. Again. That night I didn't sleep. I just sat in the living room, holding an old photo of us from his high school graduation. I looked at that young boy's face and wondered, where did I go wrong? The next morning, he called again, just like nothing had happened. Mom, I've been thinking, maybe we should come visit. Oh, and we'll bring you some supplements. You've been looking tired lately. I almost laughed. Tired. I had been tired for 20 years. But I said yes. Come visit. Of course. Bring your wife, bring your vitamins. I'll be here. I'll always be here. And that's when I knew. I had to stop being here. Not for him. Not like this. I went to the drawer in the hallway. Took out the one thing I had always avoided touching. My safe box. Inside, the deed to the house. The insurance papers I never told him about. And the letter my husband left me before he died. The letter where he warned me. Jason doesn't love you, Helen. He loves what you can give. Back then, I ripped it up. Called him bitter. Called him cruel. Now, I wasn't so sure. So I opened my planner. Turned to a blank page. Wrote just 2 words. My plan. They showed up smiling. But I could already smell the lie under their perfume. Jason stepped out of the car holding a paper bag. Brought you supplements, Mom. Thought you could use a little boost. He hugged me like a man running for office. Quick, tight, rehearsed. Molly followed, all warmth and grace, wrapping me in soft fabric and a fake laugh. You look wonderful, Helen. Jason talks about you all the time. Sure he does. Usually when he needs a bank loan that doesn't require interest or paperwork. But I smiled, held the door open, and let them in. The house changed the second they stepped inside. It wasn't loud or obvious. Just shifted. Jason looked around like a real estate agent showing a high-end listing. Molly wandered into the kitchen and opened my fridge without asking. Oh, still drinking whole milk, she said softly. Like it was a tragic flaw. We sat in the living room. Jason leaned forward on the couch. You know, the apartment's getting tight. We were thinking, maybe we stay here for a little while. I nodded slowly. That makes sense. He smiled. but not with relief. With calculation. He pushed further. And since we'll be helping with the house now, maybe it's time to, put it in my name. Molly placed her hand on my arm gently. You've done enough, Helen. It's time for you to relax. I looked at their faces. Young, clean, glowing with health and confidence. They had no idea I already knew everything. No idea I had seen the policy. No idea I'd checked my medical records and found a beneficiary listed that I never approved. Jason. I leaned back in my chair, hands folded in my lap. Of course, I said. They both blinked. Jason's mouth opened just a little. Molly's eyebrows twitched. I smiled wider. If it makes your life easier, I'm all for it. Their relief poured out too fast. Too easy. I watched it bubble up, entitlement in real time, and I knew exactly what to do next. The following days were a performance. For all of us. Jason offered to do the dishes. Molly made oatmeal for breakfast. Once. They bought new hand towels for the guest bathroom. Told me it would help resale value later. And every night, I could feel the timer ticking behind their eyes. They thought I was drifting. They thought I was fading. But really, I was watching and remembering everything. Then one night, I woke up around 3 a.m., heard movement downstairs, their voices low and urgent. I stayed quiet, tiptoed down the hallway, listened from the top step. Jason's voice. As soon as it's signed, she's out. Molly's laugh, soft and mean. Don't worry, she's basically gone already. And then his words, the ones that split me open. She's not my mom. She's a Czech with gray hair. I walked back to bed like a sleepwalker. My body numb, but my mind wide awake. At dawn, I sat by the window with a pen, opened my notebook, turned to the next page under my plan, and I wrote the next line. Let them think they've already won. Because if they wanted a performance, I'd give them the best act of my life. He was always there in the mornings, waiting by my bed, tail thumping, eyes soft with that old soul calm only dogs have. Rusty. Golden Retriever. 12 years old. Half blind, fully loyal. The only creature in this house who never asked me for anything I didn't already want to give. And one morning, he was gone. I woke up like always stretched, reached down to ruffle his ears. But my hand touched empty floor. No soft breath, no warm body. Just cold air and silence. I sat up, called out softly. Rusty, come here, boy. Nothing. I walked through the hall. Checked the kitchen, the backyard. His favorite sunny spot by the back window. Still nothing. His water bowl was untouched. His toy, the chewed-up raccoon gone. His bed? Perfectly clean. Like no dog had ever lived there. I asked Jason over breakfast. You seen Rusty this morning? He didn't even look up from his phone. Yeah, took him out. He ran off somewhere, I guess. My hand froze around my teacup. You let him off the leash. He shrugged. Wasn't like he listened anyway. Just a dumb old dog. Molly giggled. Like he'd made a joke. I said nothing. Nothing at all. But something in me snapped. Rusty was with me after my husband died. After Jason moved out. After the cancer scare. After the endless nights of loneliness that made the walls feel like tombstones. He was there. Every time. He never left. Until Jason did. That night I sat in the dark living room. The house still smelled like his fur. And I realized something that I think I always knew but never said out loud. Jason didn't just want my money. He wanted to erase everything that didn't serve him. Everything I loved. Even the dog. Later that night, I heard Molly in the hallway, whispering into her phone. She's definitely wearing down. I think she's ready to sign. Then silence. Then laughter. Hers. I closed my bedroom door and made one more note in my planner. They took my dog. They won't take anything else. They say food is love. And maybe once, it was. But not now. Not here. Now it was a weapon. A slow, polite, calculated war served on ceramic plates. That morning Molly screamed at me over soup. "You trying to poison me? This is too hot." She spat it into the sink like a spoiled child. Jason didn't even look up from his laptop. I wiped the splash off my blouse. Said nothing. Just nodded. And smiled. That's when the idea came. I wasn't going to yell or cry or beg to be respected. I was going to cook. Like always. Except this time. Dinner had a purpose. I went to the grocery store and filled my cart like it was Thanksgiving. Comfort food. Heavy food. Creamy mashed potatoes. Double-baked mac and cheese. Thick stews. Butter-soaked rolls. Salt-heavy casseroles that made your hands swell by morning. And always dessert. Jason loved banana pudding. Molly craved chocolate mousse. They thought it was kindness. They never questioned the extra salt. Or the strange drowsiness that crept in after every meal. But the real touch came from their own medicine cabinet. One night while they were binge-watching TV, I walked into their bathroom, quiet as breath, opened the drawer, and found the pills. Jason's sedatives. Prescribed 2 years ago, still half full. They wouldn't notice a few missing. So I took 2, then 3, then just enough to make a point. The next day I baked little apple turnovers. Flaky, golden warm. Jason ate 3 in one sitting. Then fell asleep on the couch for 6 hours straight. Molly followed right after. Face down on the armchair. Mouth open, snoring. That was my first test run. They failed beautifully. I watched them sleep. 2 grown adults. Living in a house they planned to steal. Off the woman they called mom only when it paid. I sat in the armchair across from them, pen in hand, notebook open on my lap, and wrote, Phase 1 done. Phase 2, bring them to the woods. Because they already had a plan for me. That much I knew. But what they didn't know was that I was 3 moves ahead. And I had no intention of letting them take the final turn. They told me it was a family hike. Fresh air. Nature. Time together. But their eyes said something else. We thought it'd be nice to take you out of the house, Jason said, his hand on my shoulder. Too firm. Molly smiled, sweet as syrup. Just the 3 of us like old times. There were no old times like that. We never hiked. We never camped. We barely had dinner without tension. But I said yes. Of course. I packed my bag that night in silence. Slipped in 2 water bottles, a protein bar, and a dose of truth. They picked me up early. Smiling. Excited. Too excited. Jason had a backpack. Heavier than it should have been. Molly wore perfume. To go hiking. As we drove farther from the city, the roads grew narrow. The woods thicker. Signal disappeared. And still, I smiled. I nodded. I played the fool they thought I was. We parked at the edge of Pine Valley Ridge. Local spot. Dangerous if you stray too far. Steep drops, loose rocks, sudden fog. I'd read the reports. People fell. People vanished. No questions asked. We started walking. Jason led the way. Molly stayed behind me. Too close. I could feel her breath on my neck. She kept asking. Feeling okay, Helen, need to rest. I kept saying no. But thank you. Halfway up the ridge, Jason stopped. Reached into his backpack. Pulled out a bottle. Electrolyte drink, he said. Just for you. I took it. Uncapped it. Smelled nothing unusual. I smiled. Took a sip. Let it touch my lips. And pretended to swallow. Then slipped the rest in my bag. He watched me. I met his eyes. I'm fine, I said. Just tired. We reached the summit at sunset. It was beautiful. Golden sky. Endless trees. And silence. The kind of silence that makes you feel small. But not afraid. Not me. Not anymore. Why don't you sit? Jason said, gesturing toward a rock near the edge. I nodded. Sat down. Molly opened a granola bar. Jason stood behind me, pacing, then reached into his backpack again. I knew what was coming, but I moved first. Reached into my bag, pulled out 2 protein bars, and offered them to both of them. I said gently, "You must be tired too." They took them without hesitation. They were hungry and predictable. 15 minutes later, their limbs grew heavy, eyes glassy, words slurred. Jason tried to stand, but stumbled. Molly fell first. Soft thud against the dirt. Jason followed. Face down. Out cold. I stood. Brushed off my hands. Looked at their bodies. Tangled. Twitching slightly in sleep. Then I whispered, "You should have known better." And walked away. No panic. No rush. Step by step. Down the trail. Alone. I reached the car an hour later. My legs aching, but my mind clear. I drove to the nearest gas station. Called 911. My son and his wife went hiking with me. I lost track of them. "I'm so worried." The operator responded quickly. "Stay put, ma'am. We're dispatching a rescue team now." I waited, just like a scared mother should. But inside, I felt nothing but stillness. They were found. Confused. Dehydrated. No memory of what happened. Blamed the heat. Blamed exhaustion. They never mentioned the bars. Never suspected me. Why would they? I was just mom. Back home. I made soup. Jason slurped it in silence. Molly chewed toast with shaky hands. I asked, "Feeling better?" They nodded. Too tired to speak. I sat across from them, smiling gently, sipping my tea. And inside, I crossed out the next line in my notebook. Phase 2, complete. I was already home, sipping tea in my robe, when the police knocked. "Ma'am, we received a report," the officer said, "about your son and his wife. They were found unconscious in the woods." I gasped, hand to my chest. "What? How are they?" "They're alive," he said. "Lucky, actually, exposure like that could have been fatal." I nodded slowly. "Thank God," I whispered. "They just wanted to take me hiking." The officer studied me for a moment, then tipped his hat and left. And just like that, I was clear. Back at the hospital, Jason looked like a ghost. Molly's hair was matted, lips cracked, skin pale. They said nothing when I walked in, just stared, waiting to see which version of me would arrive. The fool, or the one they never saw coming. I chose the first. "Oh honey," I said softly. I was so scared. "I thought I lost you." Jason blinked like he couldn't decide if I was real. Molly finally whispered, "What happened to you on the mountain?" I tilted my head. Me. I tripped. Sprained my ankle. I pulled up my pant leg and showed them the wrap. Doctors said I was lucky. They didn't believe me. But they couldn't prove anything either. And that's the beauty of subtle revenge. It never leaves fingerprints. For the next week, they stayed quiet, tense, wary, like animals who'd sniffed poison once, but couldn't find the source. And I cooked, cleaned, folded towels, and smiled like the perfect old woman they thought they could erase. Then, I offered them a gift. "You two deserve a break," I said. Jason narrowed his eyes. "What kind of break?" "A vacation," I smiled. "My treat." Molly lit up like Christmas morning. I sent them to Hawaii. 5-star resort. Ocean view. Welcome drinks. Full package. They left giddy and smug, just as I'd hoped. And the second they boarded that plane, I changed every lock on my house. Their closets? Empty. Their boxes? Shipped to charity. Their junk? In the driveway, waiting for pickup. 3 days later, I sent one last thing. A PDF invoice. Every penny they spent on vacation. Itemized. Under Jason's name. Because every dollar had been charged to his own credit line. He just didn't know it. Yet. His call came quick. His voice is shaking. What the hell is this? My gift, I said. You said you wanted to build credit. He screamed into the phone. I'm your son. I paused. Are you? Then I sent him the paternity test. The one I'd been holding for 20 years. He wasn't mine. Not by blood. Just by choice. And that choice? Expired. He stood on my porch screaming, pounding the door like he owned it. Open up, Mom. You can't do this. I opened the door just enough for my face to show, and said the words I should have said years ago. This isn't your house, Jason. And I'm not your mother anymore. His face crumpled. Confusion, anger, desperation, all trying to live in the same expression. Molly stood behind him, arms crossed, silent but seething. You signed the house over, he shouted. I smiled. No. I gave you a fake contract with the words, display only, at the bottom. You just never read it. Molly pushed past him. This is insane. We let you live here. Out of kindness. I laughed. You moved in. Tried to drug me. Killed my dog. And took out $1 million policy on my life. Jason's eyes flickered. Molly's jaw dropped. You can't prove that. I handed her a folder. Inside, the printed insurance documents. All under his name. All in black and white. Jason grabbed it. Flipped through the pages like a drowning man looking for dry land. This doesn't mean anything. I pointed to the signature line. That's your handwriting. And then, I handed him one more envelope. He opened it slowly. Inside, the paternity report. His hands started shaking. What is this? I met his eyes. Proof. You were never mine. Not by blood. Only by mercy. He sank to the step like his knees gave out. Molly backed away like she'd seen a ghost. I let them sit there, just long enough to feel the silence. Then I closed the door and locked it. Twice. I went to the kitchen, poured myself coffee, sat in the sun like it was just another morning. Because it was. Except this one belonged to me. They tried to smear me later. Told neighbors I was senile. Wrote nasty posts online. Called me heartless. But it didn't last. They had no evidence. And I had peace. A few months later, Jason's health started to fail. Years of stress, poor food, and maybe karma finally caught up. Molly left him. He tried calling me again. Begged for help. Said he was sorry. I didn't answer. Because forgiveness is not the same as forgetting. And survival sometimes means closing the door and keeping it closed. Meanwhile, I was meeting someone for lunch. Leonard, the man I found on the mountain. Well, the man who found me too, in his own way. He wasn't loud, wasn't flashy. He didn't make promises. He made space. Let me talk. Let me sit in silence. Let me be. We drank coffee on the porch. Took walks without speaking. Cooked side by side like it was the most natural thing in the world. He said once, "You stopped living for everyone else. That's when I knew you were finally home." And I think he was right. Jason? I heard he moved out of state. Lives alone now. Still angry. Still blaming. Still certain the world owes him something. But it doesn't. And I don't. Not anymore. My house is filled with music again. Books. Plants. Laughter. And silence that I actually enjoy. Sometimes I sit under the maple tree in the yard and whisper to Rusty, "You'd like this part. You'd like how it turned out." And sometimes I still hear Jason's voice in my mind, calling me mom like it meant something. And I gently replied to no one. I loved you like a son. But now, I finally love myself more. Thank you for listening. Please subscribe to my channel. I write these stories for you. If you stayed until the end, you're a strong soul. Tell me in the comments, what do you think about the heroine? And where do you think love ends and self-respect begins? If you noticed a mistake in the voiceover, let me know, I'll fix it. I'm doing this for you.